What's going on, big ballers? It's your boy MJG coming live here with your boy Joe the Birdman. Sorry if I'm winning. I had to run up here, guys. Sorry for the late start. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, Manny. How are you?
Woo!
I'm
Pretty
a little
good,
winded
brother.
too, man. I was just getting my son lunch together, and I looked at the clock and I was like, "Oop, gotta jump on the stream."
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been a grind here. Oh, that there it goes. So we got our background on over here. I
There
don't
we
know why I
go.
took it off, but yeah, man, it's been an interesting week. A lot of injuries this week, a lot of players out last second. So obviously a lot of dilemmas, right? So we
A
have
lot
people
of
that got
dilemmas.
a lot of questions here today. Obviously, some people have reached out to us here early on different avenues. So overall, we want to address the main ones, right? So obviously, we already knew certain players were going to be out this week. If you thought Aaron Jones was going to play again, we knew that wasn't going to happen. So Aaron Jones is out. So AJ Dillon, let's see if he actually produces. Right? It's been it's been a week. He's been it's the second week playing, and he hasn't really produced last week. Let's see if he does it this week. You have another guy that's plug and play this week, Kendre Miller, right, in place of Jamal Williams. Hopefully he doesn't produce, right, because he's gone against me in one league.
Do, are you are
I'm just
you
playing.
in our game? Are you playing AJ Dillon?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So see, because I have him in another league. So, that's something we always run into. Everybody that plays fantasy and has more than one team will run into that at least a few times during the season where I'm cheering for AJ Dillon, but at the same time, I'm going against him. So it's
It's a
it's just
double
something
edged
that's
sword.
bound to happen. That's right.
Yeah, you're like, I want a nice stable, like you're like, I want 15 points. That's it. So 15 points enough to get me by, enough to overcome. You don't
Yeah,
want to get too high,
exactly.
too low.
12 to 15. That'd be perfect.
Well, shoot, I
Dude,
I'm so desperate. I had to go Mac Hollins this week for the flex, man. That's how thin I am right now at the spot at the flex right now.
well, you saw how desperate I am. I'm playing Kendre Miller. And you know what, man? Something I'm gonna put out there right now is I've got a lot of friends. I'm in a group chat with a lot of people in my fantasy football leagues, and I got a lot of friends giving me a hard time for putting Taysom Hill in at tight end. But listen, what are my other options here? Like, I've got plenty of leagues where I have the dilemma between Sam Laporta and Hunter Henry. That's not a bad dilemma. That's a
No.
coin flip, in my opinion. I asked you about it last week, Manny. Now I'm going to ask you about it again. I'm playing Hunter Henry in two leagues where I've got Henry and Laporta. Now I'm going Hunter Henry just because I feel like the touchdown upside is there. But you've
Mhm.
also got Josh Reynolds and Amon-Ra St. Brown that are a little bit banged up, so that might be the wrong call. That's a coin flip in my opinion. But when I've got options that are Kyle Pitts or Taysom Hill, I'm sorry, I'm going with Taysom Hill because the upside there. Kyle Pitts is going to get me 5 points. I know that. So why not take the gamble on Taysom Hill where he might get me 15?
Yeah, I think they're gonna because last week they used Tony Jones, and they're gonna be using Kendrick Miller, and then Taysom Hill did have 9 rushes for 75 yards, so I mean he was super effective. And did he get that touchdown? They just stopped him at the 1 yard
No,
line,
yeah,
right?
they stuffed him at the 1 yard line. But if he did
Mhm.
have that, if he did get that touchdown, I feel like all of the experts, the basement dwellers
Would
that
be
agree
high.
with each other on everything, I feel like
Mhm.
they would be giving him a little bit more airtime. Everyone's like, never Taysom Hill, never Taysom Hill. Well, last year he had a couple monster games. And when you're talking about the tight end position, there are times where Taysom Hill is a reasonable option. Maybe not reasonable, but like, what else can you do? I'm upset with myself that I even drafted Kyle Pitts, even though it was a late pick. Why have I not
Mhm.
learned my lesson by now? I don't know. But you know, I'm going to play Taysom Hill in this situation. This week,
Mhm.
we are down the number 1 and the number 2 running back. We've got Kamara out for another 2 weeks. We've got Jamal Williams out for at least one, probably 2 more weeks.
Well, Kamara's out for this is last week. He's only out for 3 total. This is Kamara's last week out.
Oh, he is coming back to next week. Okay, so
yeah.
Anyway, just this week. Okay, so let's talk about just this week. If you're down your top 2 running backs and you've got a tight end that they use as a running back that's more efficient than 90% of the NFL when they use him as a running back, I'm going to take my chances on him rather than plug in Kyle Pitts. You know, everyone looks at these projected stats, and you and I have discussed this before, Manny. Everyone looks at these projected stats, and they'll put, you know, like, for example, you know, I've got a lot of people saying, why aren't you playing? I've got Hopkins on the bench in 2 leagues, and I'm playing Christian Kirk over Hopkins. Christian Kirk's projected total on ESPN is something around 12. And Hopkins' projected total is somewhere around 14. I just have a little more confidence in Christian Kirk than DeAndre Hopkins right now. So I think that people put a little too much weight onto these projections. And, you know, you can't just rely on that. You can't rely on these experts. Again, you're talking about a collection of 100 different experts that all seem to agree with each other. I'm going to use my gut instinct. And, you know, at least, you know, you and I watch these games. I sometimes wonder how many of these experts watch these games because, you know, the consensus, while many times the consensus will come to be true, there are many times where that consensus will fail you miserably. Cam Akers is a perfect example of that.
Oh yeah, I always so I ended up. What I do is I like to watch every single game afterwards as well. So I'll do the condensed version of every game. Yeah. So you know, and you'll get to see every single highlight, every single touch. You know, and that's where you get to see really, you know, certain gems on certain teams. You know, players that get, you know, really efficient and limited touches, and the team doesn't really go with them as much. But then as a team, you know, progresses throughout their game plan throughout the season, you start seeing them incorporating them more. You know, and that's where you get to see your trade targets, and that's how we highlight players for our player profiles. Because everybody has players you should target, and they always talk about top players, you know, buy low on, right? Which is anyone with a brain can do that, right? So it's about identifying those players early before they get hot. Like we were talking about players like, you know, Sam Laporta, for example. You were talking about him. You know, I was talking about Nico Collins, you know, players that were under the radar that, you know, are definitely performing. Yes, they are overperforming now. I don't think they're going to be top at their positions throughout the season, but I still think they're going to give you steady production. And those are players that you want on your team as your flex and your starters, you know, for throughout. So as you get these injuries, you know, because you're not going to be able to get those, you know, you're not going to be able to trade for stars, especially given the direction the season is heading this year. It seems like there's going to be a lot of injuries. You know, it's already started off that way. You know, there's going to be a lot of, you know, uncertainty in certain positions, especially running back, you know, so you want to make sure that you're built for the long haul and you're able to adapt because, you know, you never know what's going to happen with this bargaining with the running backs at the moment.
Exactly. And you know, one thing give you big credit for is you were high on Nico Collins long before his breakout game last week. So, you know, there's certain players you see that potential and you buy into that, you know, maybe during the draft in late rounds, or maybe if you trade, you know, look, you throw out a low ball trade and you end up at a better end of the deal. But, you know, there's a lot of things with injuries specifically. That's why I'm so high on running back every year, is because especially the last couple years, we've seen some horrific injuries, and then your team, you know, it's not ruined, but you're in a bad spot. So I feel like wide receiver is so much deeper than running back that's why I always, every draft for the last decade, have invested heavily in running back because of those injuries. I'd rather have 3 studs on my team than 2, just in case one goes down. And now, you know, it's been a rough start for me, as you know. You know, there's been some leagues where I'm doing all right, but, you know, in the 2 leagues I'm in with you, I'm not doing very well. And, you know, my point total isn't bad, but I've lost 2 games in a row. And I think both your leagues, I think I'm 0-2. And that's not something that feels good. But I like my team. And right now, you know, when I've got a lot of solid bench options, and I'm deciding between them. That's a much better option than just be in the one league, for example, where I'm playing Kendre Miller. That's not a good feeling to have no options. So I'm going to the waiver wire and just hoping that somebody can get me 10 points like Breida did this weekend. If I knew he was putting up 10, I'd have grabbed him instead of Kendre Miller. But, if Kendre Miller gets me 10 or 12, I will be very happy. And it's just not a comfortable position to be in. That's why I go heavy on running back during the draft. And in that league, that was the one where I didn't. That's the league where I decided to go. I think I had first pick, so I went Justin Jefferson, and then with my second pick, I think I went Hurts, and then my third, Hurts might have been my third, but they're back to back. When you got a number one pick, so I think after that I went Jahmyr Gibbs. So I got solid options for the first three picks, but since I didn't double up on running back, that's why I'm scrambling, and I got Kendre Miller starting for me this week. It's not a comfortable place to be. Yeah. It's the nature of the game.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of and much like every year, there's always those gems in the back end or the middle of the draft. For running back that you could grab, like Brian Robinson was somebody. I wasn't like super high on him in the draft, but it was somebody that I liked as like a handcuff option. And I grabbed him in a league or two, and he ended up being pretty solid. Obviously, he's like RB3 right now, so he ended up doing good. There's Raheem Mostert, another guy that I liked, mid-range, so I got him in another league as well. So those are guys that you were able to buy, kind of get on. But like I tell people, the fantasy football is like the stock market. You're going to have ups and downs. You get guys, and they're hot early, and they're going to be down later, so you sell high on those guys, and buy low on your other guys, because last year I think I sold low on Derrick Henry. I ended up trading you Derrick Henry for Breece Hall and Jalen Waddle, and in the beginning it looked like that was a great trade for me, and you lost that trade, but obviously it ended up turning out that, you won because Derrick Henry turned into a monster. So that's how the season typically goes, and you take that risk no matter when you trade, but that's what the season's about, is having that vision to see what moves you want to make and how you take advantage. So if you have those guys like those Kyren Williams, you have that Brian Robinson, you have those Nico Collins, you have those guys that are like just booming right now, this is your opportunity to go after your Jamar Chase, your Derrick Henrys, those teams that are really struggling, that need production, that need some stars or some points, and you can really make a good offer, and it looks great on paper. And, people won't veto it, and then you could end up making your team just better all around. So,
and at first that trade that you were just talking about, you won that trade for a couple weeks until Breece Hall got injured. And, he's in a weird spot right now. The offense is horrible. I really don't know what to tell anybody about Breece Hall at this point, because there's a chance that he's still going to be a monster. And, people are saying, I had a friend reach out to me, hey, I was just offered Christian Kirk from Breece Hall. Should I take it? And I was like, I have no idea what to tell you. Do you need a wide receiver? Because if you really need a wide receiver, then maybe you should take Christian Kirk. But if you are using Breece Hall as your, flex, that might bite you in a few weeks. I really just don't know what to tell him. So I said, hey, man, I'm sorry. Like, that just depends on your lineup. Then when he sent it to me, he sent me his team. I was like, man, you're pretty good at running back, but you're also good at receiver. I feel like receiver's deeper, so I would just stay where you are right now. Let it play out for a couple weeks. Because, if you're in a good spot and you're talking about trading bench players, chill out. See what happens over the next week or two. But that's a question where right now, given the circumstances, if he needed a receiver, I might say, yeah, man, take that. If you're good at running back, you got two studs starting for you, maybe you should take that. But, we saw what happens with Christian Kirk and Ridley. Week 1 was Ridley. Week 2 was Christian Kirk. That's probably, unfortunately, going to be a lot of the pattern that we see throughout the year. So a lot of boom and bust on that team, but they have a high-powered offense, and the Jets do not. So, I traded I traded Garrett Wilson for Chris Godwin. I don't know if that was the right move. I think Godwin's going to get a lot more targets that are good compared to Zach Wilson just throwing up the ball, hoping that Garrett Wilson catches it. But, um, PPR, I think that's Godwin, but I don't know.
I think you get more consistency with Godwin. I
That's
mean,
what I'm
Garrett
thinking.
Wilson has more talent, but you get more consistency with Godwin, and I have a buddy that's a Bucks fan, and the Bucks fans are all riled up because Eagles Bucks Monday Night Football. And actually, I watched that whole game. I watched the whole Bears Bucks game, and the Bears actually gave them a good ball game until the fourth quarter. So, I know they were talking about this stud defense and all that, and they had 5 or 6 sacks, but a lot of those sacks were Justin Fields holding the ball way too long, and that O
Way
line
too
is
long. My
nowhere,
God,
and
it was
and
hard to
and
watch.
that O line is nowhere anywhere close to the level of the Eagles O line. Like our O line is number one in the league for a reason. So when
That's
I was
right.
watching that, I saw it. I was like, the Bucks. A lot of those, like Mike Evans got away with that big catch he had, this 70-yard catch. He got away
Yeah.
with the pass interference, so they're not going to get away with that all the time. So I think overall the reason why Mike Evans had such a big game, Godwin has such a minimal game, was because of obviously that momentum from that catch. But overall, Godwin's going to be your guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to get the consistent looks in that offense. So I think he's going to have a better ceiling than Garrett Wilson, who had 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. That's
Right.
just not consistent.
Exactly. And, a lot of the people um, that don't have time to watch the games or just don't care as much. And it's not like I watch every game. Like I do what you do, right? I watch the Red Zone channel and then I filter through the
Mhm.
highlights on Monday. So, you know, you don't catch everything, but I saw that with Garrett Wilson where, okay, he had 2 receptions and one was for 70 yards and a touchdown. And it's kind of like week one with Brees Hall. My buddy was like, hey, those week one statistics are skewed because of that one play. I know that. He had an 80-yard run for a touchdown. I'm aware of that. But
Mhm.
running back is so scarce. I'm just saying he's a monster. You might want to hold him. It's hard to make these predictions 2 weeks into the season, but I think you're right about Godwin. He had a really consistent year. Actually, last few years have been very consistent for him. And I think he's a more reliable option. He's going to get more receptions as a whole. So that's why I pulled the trigger on that one. But there's a lot of question marks really all around the league right now that we have to sit back and let the next couple weeks play out before we make a decision.
Yeah, the early weeks are always the struggling weeks. Teams are getting their identity. They're really trying to find it out. So I wouldn't hit the panic button. And the way I see it, there's always a silver lining. So if you're like, you haven't got wins early on, I mean, and you're like last on the rankings, that means you're first on the waiver wire, right? So that was your prime opportunity to really pluck those waiver wires and really get those stars. So if you were like, if you got Puka Nakua or if you got Kyron Williams those first couple weeks, if they were available, you were really looking at a great position, or obviously Hunter Henry, right? That was a top
Right.
waiver option for the, tight end position. But, a lot of great options there. Obviously now it's a little bit scarce. But even if week 3, let's say there's an injury, I think there's always an injury, throughout the season. You never know what's going to happen, especially the way the game is played nowadays. It's pretty, super fast paced, and some players play with reckless abandon, so you never know what's going to happen. So you just got to keep your eyes out, keep your eye on the prize, and just know you could have a run. As long as you win 8 games, you still got a chance to get into the playoffs. And right now
That's right.
it's what, a 15-game season. 15 games, so you could be on a 5-game losing streak to start off the season and win the next 8, and you can still get into the playoffs. So it's not a complete loss there. You still got a chance. So that's what I tell people. You just got to make moves. You got to do your best. And if you are someone that already lost, let's say you drafted incorrectly and you're already thin at one position, let's say running back, for example, which is where some people really do end up in that position,
Of
thin at
course.
running back, and then they have an injury. And now you have a star running back, or like star wide receivers and like one good running back. You have to bite the bullet and you have to break that star up into a couple good starters.
Hmm.
Like you're not going to get far with just one starter and a bunch of plugins. Like you're not playing to longevity. And that's why
Right.
people last year when I broke up Derrick Henry from a superstar into a couple starters, people thought I was crazy because I looked at it long term. Like it could have definitely won the league for me there. So you just have to have that vision to see what's more important to me. Do I want to win a couple games or do I want to win long term? And so you got to be willing to give up that one player to try to make your team better.
Absolutely. And just to touch on what you were just saying, and this is obviously something that many people can say they did too. Last year, I started 0-3 in one league and I won. And 2 years ago, I started 0-3 in one league and I won. And that's because you got to be patient, got to make moves when it makes sense. Like you were just talking with the waiver wire. Because I started out poorly, I got Kyron Williams on a few teams. I got Puka Nacua on a few teams. And I think both those guys, as the season goes on, will be fine. If Cooper Kupp comes back, yes, he's the wide receiver one. We all know that. But they might kind of ease him in to his starring role again before they just start feeding him the ball like they did the last couple years. So, Puka's probably going to be a threat for a while. Even Tutu Atwell is going to be used for a while. And when Puka's back to 100%, or I'm sorry, when Kupp is back to 100%, they're still going to use those guys. They don't typically run with just two wide receivers. They've got three in there for a reason. Three studs that have proven to be effective. And Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell came out of nowhere, but they've proven themselves over the first couple weeks to be very effective pass catchers. So it's not like they're just going to be forgotten once Cooper Kupp comes back. And, no one expected this Kyron Williams situation to just basically him be the running back one week 2 with Cam Akers as a complete scratch. No one expected that. So that was kind of me just dumb luck falling into that situation. I wanted Josh Kelly in a couple leagues, but it was like, I'm not high enough up on waivers. I'll get Kyron Williams. We'll see. Maybe I'll stash him on my bench for a couple weeks, see what happens. I just didn't expect that to happen. So, dumb luck is part of fantasy football too. And you got to roll with it. You got to be happy about it. Now this week, I'm in a couple good spots where, I'm playing Kyron Williams at the flex spot with two studs at running back. That feels great,
Yeah, I didn't expect Kyron to be that good. Also, same thing for Tutu. Like, I didn't expect him to be that kind of a monster. Like, I know he was a second round draft pick last year, but man, like to see Matt Stafford just get his crap back together this year is just surprising.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't expect that team to go from worse to like go back to what they were 2 years ago because you never seen a team drop off so quick as the Rams did last year to really get it back together, considering they still don't have their star player back. So
I was just going to say, with basically no changes.
Yeah. And that to me also, questions the future of Cooper Kupp. Like, are they going to give him that monster workload moving forward now that they really have an established group trio of receivers now? Like,
right.
Can you – because it wasn't sustainable for team success when they were just feeding Cooper Kupp. Yeah, he was killing it for fantasy, but were they winning games? Absolutely not. Because all they kept doing is feeding Cooper Kupp. And overall, their team was struggling. So if they spread it around between Puka, Tutu, and, Cuckoo – oh, they all got screwed up names. I mean, are they gonna, keep that success going? And it turns out that the Rams, who I was completely, staying the hell away from as a fantasy no-go, is now like one of the more surprising fantasy units of this year. So that's something that, it's very surprising. But we got some viewers coming in now, guys. What's going on, Gendry? What's up, brother? You got any start questions here this week?
Our number one viewer, Gendry. Good to see you, man. And like you were just saying, Manny, I wanted to just touch on what you were just saying. To see the Rams go from here, Super Bowl team, Super Bowl champions, to just drop off completely and then come back up, it's just weird. I can't explain it because they didn't make a lot of changes offensively or defensively. So maybe they just got their mojo back, but I love it.
Yeah. And you know what? so another comparison, we didn't drop off to I guess we did drop off to that level. So the Eagles, when we won the Super Bowl, right? We ended up coming back the next year and we had a horrible season with Doug Peterson and we fired him. Doug Peterson, we fired him. And then we ended up, coming back with the whole new coach. And then we ended up, making a playoff run, the next year. So we weren't like the greatest, but we came back and we first year with Sirianni. So it seems like the Rams are on a similar trajectory. The difference is they kept their coach. And the Rams would have been crazy like McVay. But McVay wasn't going to leave. He was obviously going to, he was thinking about retiring, which would have been horrible for them if he did.
And the drop off with the Eagles definitely was not as severe. I mean, and another thing is, you had your backup, Big Dick Nick, in there winning the Super Bowl. No one expected that either. So,
yeah,
yeah,
he did. He legendary. I still got a Nick Foles poster in my
nice.
closet over here. Still waiting to get autographs. So Nick Foles, come at me.
Come on, man.
Hit me up, brother. I'm
Help
still waiting on that
out.
autograph. So yeah. But yeah, it sounds good over here. Let me see. Gendry, you got any start questions for us over here? We're gonna be running this for probably another 5-7 minutes over here. Get it going. We're gonna wrap this up here a little bit early today. Get ready for play football here. I got some Spanish rice going. It's gonna be pretty fire.
Oh yeah, nice.
Oh yeah, I'm making some chicken wings too. I'm gonna be grilling some wings today, making some arroz con gandules, some bacon in it.
It's gonna be man, I gotta come down there for a game. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, bro. I be throwing down on Sundays, man. That's my day. Football, grilling, smoking,
Absolutely, man. This is before my beautiful son was in the picture. My weekends used to be golf at 7 a.m. I'd be home before the game started, and I'd just post up with some buffalo or what was it called? Like hot buffalo dip with Tostitos, man. I was like, spitting fire out my ass on every Sunday night, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Higgins over Collins, man. No, I like Collins, bro.
Yeah, I like Collins a lot.
Nico Collins.
He's got to be.
Yeah, Nico, man. He's a plug and play until further notice, man. Until he just doesn't produce, Nico is just gonna be a plug and play. Let me just pull him out. Texans are also playing somebody. Let me see who they're playing. I think they're playing the Colts. No, Jacksonville. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're playing Nico Collins against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
all day long. Yeah. And then Joe Burrow is questionable. And then also I think they're playing a tough matchup. They're playing right now. Oh no, the Rams played good against the Niners last week. So
shockingly, actually,
it's unpredictable to know how they're going to do this week. So I mean, definitely Nico Collins is going to be the safer play. Yeah, maybe Higgins could have another 20-point game, but I'm going for the safer floor at the for this matchup.
I think that game finished 30-20, the Niners and the Rams, and that's the one that I said was going to be a bloodbath, and that the Rams were going to be playing catch up, and I was wrong. The Rams actually hung in there the whole time. So.
Yeah, definitely. It was a way better game than I thought. It was neck to neck pretty much the whole game. So it's the Rams have been the most surprising team this year on offense and defense. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and keep that magic going, especially against we're talking about Houston right now. But yeah, Nico Collins. I mean, CJ Stroud. He's looking great as a rookie. Like CJ Stroud should have been the number 1 overall pick. I know Panthers are really regretting right now because Bryce Young has really been struggling over there.
I would go Brian Robinson with that.
Oh yeah, all day long. Brian Robinson Jr., man, he's just like he's a starter until further notice as well. Who's he playing? Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo's a tough matchup, but if there's any way to beat Buffalo, it's on a run. Their pass defense is, it's a little bit better. And, it's kind of like pick your poison. Their rush defense is 15th ranked. Pass defense, I think it's like a little bit better than that.
And we just got to see something, in my opinion. We got to see something from Higgins before we buy into him. I know he was going pretty high in drafts, and I've been, admittedly, I've been a Higgins hater for a couple years, so my opinion is a little biased, but I just never understood the hype, and he shoved it down my throat a few times last year. But this year, I'm not sure what's going on with him, but I would like to see. Well, I don't know what's going on with that whole team, but I'd like to see something before I would start him over Brian Robinson.
Well, last week he had 28 points.
I know,
but then Jamar Chase had 10 points. So,
Right.
like, unless you have both these guys going at it, if you have both those guys obviously getting points, then I'm not starting them. And then Randy Schmidt, Taysom Hill factor at all today, Hill or Laporta. So obviously Joe is a big Taysom Hill lover over here, but definitely Laporta. I would start Laporta over Hill. He has definitely a safer floor and a very consistent role in that offense. Like, he looks great on tape. He's super fast. He's crisp. He catches well. And there's a good chance that Amon-Ra St. Brown might have some issues today with that toe. So, if he goes out, I think the safest weapon besides Josh Reynolds will be Laporta, Randy. So I would definitely start Laporta over Hill.
Randy, I love this question because before you logged in, I was talking with Manny about Taysom Hill for a couple minutes, and I just feel like the situation that the Saints are in, you're down their number 1 and their number 2 running back, and last week Taysom Hill was a more effective rusher than most running backs in the entire league. I think they are going to lean heavily on Taysom Hill as a runner today, opposed to just giving the ball to Kendre Miller, his first start. And yeah, we saw Tony Jones make some plays. I know that. But I personally, it's what you're looking for. Are you looking for a safe floor? If you need 10 points, probably go with Laporta. But if you need 15 points or 20 points and you're like overall projection is much lower than your opponent, I would go Taysom Hill. I'm playing Taysom Hill in a lot of leagues, and it's because my options aren't as good as Laporta. But also, I'm playing Taysom Hill in a flex spot over a couple people like Tyler Algier. Is that stupid? Maybe, but that's how high I am on Taysom Hill this week. I think Taysom Hill is a great play just for this week because they have 2 running backs down. Green Bay's rush defense is soft, and we saw what he did last week. So if you're looking for a ceiling, I would go Taysom Hill.
Yeah, no, not me. Yeah,
definitely. I am in the minority with that opinion.
Good question, though.
I am in the minority.
Randy, appreciate you tuning in over here. And anybody else, if you're looking at any injuries right now, I know there's a lot of people dealing. We were talking about this earlier. There's a lot of injuries right now, a lot of uncertainties. A lot of players that are going to be out this week, and people are facing the same dilemmas, especially if you're in some of those deeper leagues, like your 12-man leagues or more. You definitely got to hit the waiver wires. And there's players on there that, for example, Jalen Waddle's out today. Aaron Jones is out today. Jamal Williams is out today. So you got a lot of players that, you necessarily wouldn't have even considered rostering until, today, right? So I'm facing the same dilemma. I have a couple of those players that we just listed here. So, I'm trying to figure out my play. And actually, I'm possibly, I'm still figuring out who I'm going to play. I'm probably going to play Dalton Kincaid as my flex just because it's either Dalton Kincaid and his floor, or I'm going to play, basically take a shot with Rashawn Johnson and the Chiefs. I don't know how that workload is going to look like against the Chiefs. I don't know how they're going to use them. Or how they're going to be using Matt Collins over there in Detroit, but that's pretty much where I'm at myself. So, don't be afraid to take a loss, guys. If you end up losing, it is what it is. Just look at it as an opportunity to, go up on that waiver wire and pick up a player that you may have not gotten last week. And then if you have that IR spot, always take advantage of that IR spot. Jump up there, move a player over there, and pick somebody else up because you never know if that player you pick up is worth it, and you could drop somebody else. But that's going to touch
on what you were just saying, Manny. It's week 3. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs to calm down a little bit if you're worried. I started, like I just said, over the last 2 years, I started 2 leagues 0-3, and I won them both. You have plenty of time to make moves. You have plenty of times to grab people off the waiver wire. Injuries are going to happen. You just got to prepare as much as you can and hope for the best. That's fantasy football. continue making moves. But if you start 0-3, don't let it beat you down. You start 0-4, yeah, start to worry. But 0-3, you can bounce back, no problem.
Yes, sir. And that's going to pretty much do it all for us here today, fellas. Appreciate you all joining us here today. Thank you again. We'll be here same time next week. Oh, wait. Anita, Hail Mary, Monty, Eckler out. All right. Look at that. You got him,
See,
Joe.
if you're
he's gonna
looking
take
for
a flyer on
upside,
Hill.
man, that's what I'm talking about. If you're looking for upside, that was my big balls call of the week is Taysom Hill. I think he's going to have over 15 points today. And we saw him do it twice last year, I think. I mean, one game he put up like 40. It was ridiculous. So with the situation the Saints are in, and I don't think Green Bay's run defense is very good, I just don't see Hill being uninvolved. I think he's going to be very involved. I hope I'm right.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Randy, thank you again for joining us, my friend. We will be back here same time next week for all your questions, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. We'll see you all next week. It's your boys, the Fantasy Football Sports Minds with Manny and Joe, and you all have a good weekend. Good luck this Sunday, all right? Take care,
See you,
guys.
fellas.